we sponsor PowHer the Vote. We started in 2016, and since then, this nonpartisan campaign has been inspiring folks to learn, to reach out to their neighbors, and to ask questions of candidates about our issues. So we focus on issues, and today our issue is a caring economy. Next week, our issue will be housing justice. For any information about PowHer the Vote, just go to www.powherthevote.org. We are also focusing on the New York State Equal Rights Amendment, Prop 1. It's imperative that we share that information with folks as well and encourage them to flip their ballot and to vote for the proposition. This is an action series, and so we're asking people to take action. And throughout the panel, you'll hear some of the things that you can do. But for this moment, if you could please be online using hashtag PowHerTheVote.org, that would help spread the message. We have an amazing panel ahead of us and some really important conversation around the care economy. Last week we had wage equity. These are all connected, they're all combined. So I'm very excited to get started. Just want to remind everyone, you will find bios, very substantial bios in the chat. If you have questions, put them in the chat. This is a nonpartisan event, so please refrain from comments about specific candidates. And again, just share the messages as much as you can. I want to thank the official organizers of this wonderful panel, and that's the Caring Majority Rising and the Empire State Campaign for Childcare, as well as all the PowHer network partners who are part of this effort, part of getting out this message and this work. So let me turn to our moderator, introduce Blue Carriger. Blue is a well-known advocate and organizer. She is also a board member of PowHer New York, and she'll be moderating the panel today. Blue, are you there? There you are.
I am here.
Thank you. Take it away. We have so many great speakers. Let's get started.
Thank you very, very much, Bev. And it's a pleasure to work with Empire State Campaign for Childcare, to have all the people on from Caring Majority, and to welcome those who are viewing today and who are interested in learning more and discussing more the issues of our care economy. We are here to talk about how the care economy impacts each of us, our lives, how it is a critical element of the economic instability and economic concerns of women and families that are constantly being raised in this current election campaign. Unfortunately, while people talk in general about economic security, they don't always media-wise pinpoint the child care and home care economy as key factors there. So we're going to dig into that today. And by the end, we hope you'll have a clearer picture. You'll have some ideas of questions that you should ask of candidates or look up about where your candidates are, and have some actions that you can take to help lift up this issue and consider it when you go to the polls. So we are really thrilled and honored today to have as our opening speaker I-Jen Poo. She is a huge next generation labor leader, an award-winning organizer, an author, a leading voice in the women's movement. She's the president of the National Domestic Workers Alliance, director of Caring Across Generations. So, I-Jen, welcome. And can you start off by giving people a little bit of context? Question really, what do we mean when we talk about a caring economy, and why is this an essential issue for women and families?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be on with all of you. As someone who lived in New York for longer than I lived anywhere else in my life, this is a state that is so close to my heart and where there's incredible advocacy on behalf of caregivers throughout the state happening. So I want to thank you for all your work and for everyone who tuned in today, for everything that you are doing to elevate the significance and importance of care. And it could not be more timely because every day in our country, 10,000 of us turn 65 and we're living longer. So we have the population of people over the age of 85 is going to double by the year 2040. And we also have 10,000 babies born every year. So, on both ends of our generational spectrum in our country, we need more care than ever before. And we as a country have not invested in the kinds of systems, programs, and workforce that other countries have to support the care that families need. As a society, we have really taken for granted that people will be able to manage and afford care on their own. And what it's meant is that there are 105.6 million overstretched family caregivers trying to make it work, trying to put it all together when the math isn't mathing. And then um, we have 9 million underpaid care workers who work in our caregiving systems and programs, doing everything from early childhood education and childcare to home health care and direct care, personal care assistance, to working in assisted living facilities and institutions. All of these workers who are helping to support the care that our country needs, they're really holding it for us in our care economy, are underpaid. The median income of a home care worker in America is $22,000 per year. So what we have a situation where the workers that we're counting on to help care for us and our families can hardly care for themselves and their own families doing this work. It's unsustainable. And there is a social scientist named Jessica Calarco who just wrote a book that everyone should check out. But she says other countries have a safety net and the US has women because overwhelming numbers of family caregivers and professional care workers are women. We have been holding it together largely on our own without the kind of supportive programs and infrastructure to help, essential programs. And so we have this historic opportunity. We are the generation that can actually build the kind of caregiving systems and workforce that we have long needed for decades. And this is an issue that's time has come. The pandemic brought the care crisis to everyone's doorstep. And I think we've all been sort of awakened to how essential these programs are and how we can't do it alone. We're doing the very best we can, and we can't do it alone. We need programs that support affordable, quality childcare for everyone. There are 33 million households raising young children in America. They deserve access to affordable, quality childcare. We don't have paid family and medical leave. We are one of 6 countries in the entire planet who does not have a federal paid family medical leave program. And what that means is 1 in 4 women has to return to work within 2 weeks of giving birth, which is just if you know, you know. I mean, it's just stunning that that happens in the United States of America, and it is our reality. And then we have a growing aging population who does not have the benefit of any kind of long-term care benefit in this country. Most of us assume that Medicare covers long-term care until we try and get access to it, and we realize that it doesn't. Most people who have long-term care or long-term supports and service needs get access to it through Medicaid. And so we really need to invest in Medicaid, invest in the workers who work through Medicaid, and expand access so that more people who are not eligible for Medicaid can also afford to care for the people they love. Because paying out of pocket just isn't an option for 90% of Americans in this country. So we have the opportunity to put these policy solutions in place that is one thing I just want to underscore here, is that a lot of people just feel like this is the way it is. We have to accept it. No, we do not. There are real solutions here. And that's what the National Care Can't Wait Coalition has been fighting for. And that's what this call is about harnessing our agency and our power as voters to lift up these issues, tell our story so that we can tell a new story about care in America.
Thank you so much. Before you go, and I know that you're squeezing us in and you have to run as soon as your part of this presentation is over. But I want to ask you to just address in a short way, New York oftentimes is not looked at as a critical state, especially in national and presidential elections. But there's a lot of work at the state level that also impacts this issue. And so can you just address a little bit how state level work is important and fits in this overall battle that we're trying to wage to get people to pay attention to and address the crisis in the care economy?
Well, states are where it all starts. It's the tip of the spear for the solutions that we need. And states like New York, where there's such a huge population and a growing aging population, growing need for care across the lifespan from childcare to long-term care, the solutions that New York is able to champion and the way that New York is able to invest in care is going to set a pace for the rest of the country. All eyes are always on states like New York, because more is possible. And also because there's just a huge amount of people who are representative of the people of this country. We demographically and in terms of unmet need are very similar to the rest of the country. And if we can do it in New York, then we set a pace, we set the models, and we can innovate, we can show the rest of the country what's possible.
Thank you so much. Very much appreciate your time with us today. I don't know if you got a prompt before. I'm being asked by PowHer if you have any statement you want to make about why you want to PowHer the vote.
Look, every election cycle, I always say women are the strategy. We are the ones who are closest to the pain and the struggles of our families, and we are the majority of minimum wage worker, 2/3 of all minimum wage workers in this country. We are 80% of consumer purchasers. We are powering this economy and this democracy in every way, and we need to know our power and exercise it collectively. That is the strategy.
Thank you so much, Ajinpu, for joining us today, for sharing your overall national perspective and emphasizing how important it is for all of us to use our power and exercise it at the voting booth. We're going to turn now to panelists from the child care sector and from the home care sector. And we'll start first with those who are working or dealing with the issues that face the child care sector. So I'm going to ask the same questions of each group separately, starting with child care. And I'm going to ask Shanita Bowen, who is a provider from ECE on the Move. She'll introduce herself. We'll have some more information on her in the chat. But Shanita, if you can talk up from your perspective as a provider and as a organizer of providers about what are the key issues that are facing providers today in New York in this sector.
Yes, thank you, Blue. Good afternoon, everyone. I am a child care voter, and my name is Shanita Bowen. I am the Chief Operating Officer for ECE on the Move, grassroots organization serving the family child care sector of New York City and the parents that they all serve. And we are encouraging everyone to vote for what matters to them. And in this case, especially if you are impacted by child care in any way. And the care economy, which includes early childhood education, touches all of us, whether you're a parent, an educator, a business owner, or a policymaker. The well-being of the workforce that cares for our children directly affects the health of our communities and the stability of the economy. The issues that we face in childcare sector are significant. Providers are dealing with inadequate pay, lack of benefits, and inconsistent funding. Many are struggling to keep their doors open, and families are facing overwhelming costs, making access to quality care out of reach for far too many. Parents are also facing long waiting lists, sometimes as long as 6 to 12 weeks, keeping them from returning to work or starting new jobs that their households desperately need. This not only affects their personal economic stability, but also impacts the businesses and the broader economy. There's also a disconnect between the policies that are created and the reality on the ground. The policies often fail to reflect the true needs of educators and families, and that gap weakens the support system for our youngest learners, the children. Childcare providers are essential workers, and without them, other parts of the economy cannot function. Parents can't go to work without reliable childcare, and businesses suffer from absenteeism and the shrinking workforce. The care economy is the foundation that allows other sectors to thrive. And when it's underfunded or under-supported, we all feel the impact. And that's why it's crucial for every voter, whether or not you have young children yourself, to recognize the importance of early childhood care and education in the community. By voting for leaders and policies that strengthen the care economy, we're voting for a stronger future for all of us. Thank you, Blue.
Thanks so much, Shanita. I know the list of issues could go on forever, but you've touched on the top ones and we appreciate that. I want to turn now to Menzi, who is a parent in New York City. And if you can talk from the parent perspective about really what are the issues that you have faced in the past and face today.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nancy, and I'm a parent advocate with EC on the Move. Hey, Donich. Navigating New York is crazy in itself, right? But the inconvenience of childcare service is not only personal, but it's economical, as Ms. Shanita just stated. Access was the main issue for me, and as long as I'm sure for plenty of other families, you fill out your application, you do what is necessary, and it's a wait period. I would have loved to wait 6 to 12 weeks. I waited 5 months, and then 5 months turned into a couple of years. Okay, so I can't even find the words. The harsh reality of finding quality childcare in New York is becoming one of those things where we see where we're trying to go, and we see like little changes that are being made, and we're trying to get to the finish line. And that's why I'm here and I'm speaking on behalf of parents, because I am grateful for the 6 to 12 weeks, even though we shouldn't have to wait that long, right? Once you apply for childcare, they should figure out if you're eligible after you already got your kid into childcare. But so, yeah.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Nancy. And I know, boy, you have had to struggle and get care and lose care and get care again and go through the problems of this system multiple times. And you
Too
are
many
not
to
alone.
talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Now you have a little bit of a taste now for some of the challenges that providers are facing, that parents are facing. Let's talk now about who has the power to make a difference in this at the state or federal level, and why does how we vote have a direct impact on changing the scenarios that both Shanita and Mancy have shared with us. And I'm going to ask Dee Dee Hill from Schuyler Center to address that for us.
Hi, thanks, Blue. And thanks so much to Shanita and Mancy for laying out these tremendous challenges that are facing childcare providers and parents. As Blue said, I'm Dee Dee Hill. I'm Policy Director at the Schuyler Center for Analysis and Advocacy. I am also, along with Shanita and Mancy and Blue, among the founders and leaders of the Empire State Campaign for Childcare, which is New York's statewide campaign for universal childcare. And I'm also the parent of two childcare alums. And while my youngest is about to get her driver's license, I still very vividly remember how critical childcare was for, the operation of our daily lives working and for my sanity. I still vividly remember the struggle of keeping up with childcare bills and student debt and trying to save for a down payment on a house. It was hard, and we were a household with two middle class incomes. For many New York families, the cost of childcare is not just hard, it is impossible to manage. So for all the reasons that Shanita and Mancy laid out, we all need to be childcare voters, and we need to be childcare voters up and down the ballot. We need to be supporting the childcare workforce, and we need to be knocking down unfair and outdated barriers to access to childcare. And again, the attention and the investment, it needs to come from our federal leaders, our state leaders, and our local leaders. And that is the best way to achieve what we know New York families really need and really want, and that's access to universal childcare. All children, no exceptions. So to get there, we need our elected officials to bolster and build upon our current child care assistance program. And that program, it's funded by federal funds, state funds, local funds. And we need our officials to make sure that those robust funds are going to programs that are home-based, that are center-based, that are family, friend, and neighbor childcare, so that New York families from all communities, from all backgrounds have choices. Those funds, they have to cover the true cost of providing care, and the care has to be high quality and culturally responsive, and it must pay a thriving wage to the childcare workforce. I think it's important to note that we have made some progress. As Ai-jen Poo noted, the pandemic, it opened the eyes of many elected officials to what parents have long known, that childcare is essential. Without it, parents can't work, young children miss out on early childhood education, businesses struggle to succeed. But caring for young children, it is not cheap, nor should it be. For young children to thrive, they require a lot of one-on-one interactions with caring, focused childcare educators who are not distracted by worry about how they're going to pay their rent, educators who are not working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. And that is the reality right now. Our childcare workers in New York State are earning on average $33,000 a year. They are among the lowest paid members of the workforce. And they are our most important workers. They are caring for our babies. So in the absence of public investment in the childcare workforce, the only way that we have to raise salaries for our childcare educators is to actually raise tuition on private pay families, on the many families that are paying out of pocket. And we know that no families who are paying on average $18,000 or $19,000 a year for just one child in childcare, none of them can afford to pay more. So the solution is we need public dollars, and therefore we need our elected officials to make that a top priority. So for the good of New York children, families, communities, and businesses, we all need to vote for childcare champions, for caring workforce champions at the federal, state, and local level. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dee Dee. I think there are many of us who can share stories. I remember with my second child, I had to go back to work at 8 weeks, and we took 6 months and still struggled to find an accessible, affordable childcare provider. So this is a pervasive issue, and many of us have had those experiences. So I want to turn now to the home care side of the care economy and the parallels you will hear about very quickly. So again, I'm going to ask similar questions, and I'm going to ask Lolly first. If you will talk about your experience in this sector. Lolly is a home care worker in rural Ulster County. And so she can talk from her perspective about the challenges she's been facing.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Lolly Edinger. I am actually here today working also. I'm kind of doing double duty. I'm working with Zach. And I appreciate that he's actually the one that pulled me into advocacy. So I partly blame him and I partly thank him. Because of my work and the injustice that I see all the time, I'm now a leader with the Caring Majority Rising. And it's a unique organization because it's made up of many different people. It's made up of older adults, people with disabilities, home care workers, family caregivers, and advocates. And we're all working together to ensure that New Yorkers have access to and can afford dignified home care, and that care workers are paid a living wage. As it's been alluded to, New York's population is rapidly growing, getting older. According to the CDC, 1/4 of the state's population has a disability. Very few of us want to end up in a nursing home, or at least we want choices. Home care is what will make that possible for many of us. New York is in a precarious position where people are going without services or becoming institutionalized because they can't find home care workers. Mercer estimates that the state will face a shortage of at least 80,000 workers by 2025. That's the worst home care shortage in the US. The need for home care in New York continues to grow. And if we don't invest in worker care, worker wages, making it a more attractive job, the crisis will only get worse. And I think Agnes was going to add a little to that.
Yes, Agnes, thank you very much for joining us. Lolly, we really appreciate you sharing some of your experiences. Agnes is a mother of 3 sons and a human rights advocate from Central New York. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Agnes McCray, and I've been in the CDPAP personal care assistants for the past 28 years. It's what I would call my version of the American dream. Not only am I in charge of my health, but so much to do with my life and care. Um, the governor will wants to know slash the program by 30 30,000 people will be affected as myself, such as myself. I call myself a human rights advocate because I am very a busy person, and I could say by being on in my advocacy work, I see what the program, the CDPAC program, has been able to afford us all. And to, to now give it to one FI with a $40 billion equity contract, one all across New York State. Let me say that um, this is inhumane what is happening. It's a scary situation right now. The CDPAP program serves so many, 300, over 300,000, and they include people and families who for English is a second language. And in Syracuse alone, I must say that we have the largest CDPAR program in all of New York State, run by two entities. That's how large it is. And again, I have to say that we need the state and government support to know that we are worth the investment. This saves money, and it's concerning to me when it comes to um, being in a nursing home, because that would be the only option left. That we know that COVID has taken such a toll on the healthcare system the way it is. And just let me reiterate that the one FI that the governor has proposed this to has failed with this in every other state. So a lot is at stake for all of us, our choice, our voice, and our freedom. And for my son, who has had to be my caretaker within the past 4 years, it's been a challenge as to not know what will happen when the program was, because the program does save money. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, oops, let me see, I want to make sure I'm not on mute. So I emphasize the program that Governor Hochul is changing dramatically, and which is of great concern to all those in home care and who are concerned about the caring economy, is the Consumer Directed Personal Assistance Program. Okay, I want to turn now to, again, what, who we know a little bit, the program that Agnes was talking about is controlled at the state level. But there are things that are needed to happen at both the state and the federal level. And our elections, of course, coming up will decide who those people are going to be, many of them who have and hold elected office at the state and federal level. So how does electoral work fit into the campaigns that you are engaged in, and what are you doing to help educate people and motivate people during this election campaign? Lolly, you want to start?
Yes, thank you. Well, we have several organizing campaigns at the state. We launched our home care campaign back in 2021, and that Fair would bring home and we started the campaign. Home care workers upstate were making 1180. Because of the raises that we've won, it isn't full fair pay, but we have won some raises. It increased the minimum wage to 18.55. But as anyone who has done this work knows, that's insulting given the skills and the effort that are needed in home care. And we have to do more. And as Agnes was saying, we're also fighting back against attempts to cut the consumer directed program, which is what I have always worked through. It gives the most agency to the people that are hiring me to, and I feel comfortable going into their homes because I know they chose me to come into their homes. So, we have some of that on online that we're working at and keep working towards, as well as transparency and a couple other things. And then there's always the working at the state level, what's happening at the national level. I'm reading now that there may be a push to actually amend Medicare so that it has long-term care included in it, and you don't have to bankrupt yourself in order to qualify. So, it's a constantly moving thing about what's happening at the national level, what we can do at the state level. And it all starts with education, letting people know how they can get involved, what it means to them. A lot of people don't want to even think about home care until maybe it's too late. So that's some of the stuff we've been doing.
Terrific. And Agnes, you want to add to that?
Thank you. Yes, well, we started our electoral work in 2020, and we realized if we needed to vote for our elect public officials, they needed to see us as electoral allies. And definitely, and we are all about this as advocates, being at the table with not only the issues of the day, but part of the solution as well. We've worked on the three previous state elections, and we did elect some care allies and care champions. And this year, we're working on the 3 congressional district races to identify care voters and encourage people to vote with very much care. And now we're knocking on doors and asking people, everyone, to contribute to the voter turnout so that we can continue to be the representation that we want to see. Our voices are really our most powerful allies and weapons that we have.
Thank you. I am, again, my ability, let's see. Want to make sure that I'm on. Okay, thank you so much, Agnes. And we are getting close in our time, but I wanted to see if either of you had comments you'd like to make about, how the election will directly impact the work that you're doing. Lolly?
Yeah, we know that from our outreach and work on the campaign, from polls, from the news, uh, from our own lives, talking to other people, we know that it's a universal. Care is a universal issue. The need to support disabled and older loved ones cuts across race, geography, political party. All of us are going to need to either receive it or to give it. But it's been seen as an individual issue, and as Jen pointed out, as a woman's issue, which is why it doesn't have the importance that it should have. So we need to encourage people to talk about care issues, to bring it into the political realm, take the issue where it should be in the public sphere. We shouldn't be hiding behind the doors. This is nothing to be ashamed of. This is something that we all need to be part of a caring economy, part of a civilized nation. So our work in this election, by knocking on doors, over 10,000 of them, doing mobilizations and events, candidates will know that people vote on care issues. And hopefully that will make a difference and will get our electeds to also continue to vote on those issues. Agnes, did you want to add anything?
Yeah. Agnes, any final remarks?
Yes, we hope by doing this work, we can show how out of touch Governor Hochul really is compared to other governmental leaders. And who really, and let's say, co-champion an investment in care. And voting is important to me because it's about freedom for me and my right to choose and to make sure that others, especially as we age in Syracuse and our life takes different paths at different times in our lives, that we stay invested in the programs that support all of New York State. Nothing about us without all of us, whether we're sitting or standing, and it doesn't matter what language we speak, whether within our hand. And so we're hoping to lift up care as it's so needed in New York State and show everyone how it's really done. And it would make it so much harder for the governor to cut it, perhaps. We need to know that we are people first and not our labels. So thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Agnes and Lolly, for sharing your perspectives and very personal perspectives on the challenges that both care providers in the home care sector and those who need and depend on that care, the challenges they're facing, especially in light of the governor's recent proposal to change a major program everybody has come to know and depend on. We have a few minutes now, to take a couple of questions. Then we're going to talk about specific things that you and the audience and all of us can do to be better and better educated and participate in promoting the answers to these issues that we need. So I did see a question about how are you working with men and men's groups, because while these issues, clearly most people who are employed in the care economy are women, and there's a long, long history of relying on women to do this work at no pay or low pay and lacking respect, as well as compensation. There are more and more men and more dads who are sharing in that work, which is a positive thing. So are we working to engage them? Dee Dee, do you want to talk at all about that?
Okay. Okay, here I am. Sorry.
That's okay.
Um,
Surprise.
yeah, surprise. Yeah, well, I mean, I will. So first of all, particularly in the childcare space, I mean, the reality is that with the high cost of living and wages have not kept pace for most families, this, both parents, if they are two-parent families, if they're one-parent families, of course, everybody, all the parents, all the need to work. And so childcare is just a reality. And dads and moms are both seeing the childcare bills and are both struggling mightily to come up with the funds to cover those costs. So I think we are seeing more and more on, at our gatherings, at our advocacy days, we're seeing more and more dads stepping up because they feel the pain of not being able to afford childcare, not being able to find childcare in their communities. And I do want to just reference a recent report that the Fiscal Policy Institute put out just a few months ago, and it found that families with young children in New York are 40% more likely to migrate out of New York State than families without young children. So this is and we know that childcare costs are one of those stressors that are pushing New York families to have to leave the state that most of them love, but they just can't afford to stay here. And that is, dads and moms making those decisions together that they just can't make it work. So we need to get ahead of this.
Thanks, Dee Dee. Lolly, do you have anything to say about how you're engaging men?
Absolutely. So the person I work with has 24/7 care, and often half of our staff are actually men. The person I work with is a man, which may make a little bit of a difference. But I have seen more and more in the home care industry be men. And we talk all the time about why it is not as respected a job, and that's because of the history of it being a woman's job. But anyone from that perspective of working it, anyone is good, just like we see plenty of men in other health fields. Um, so when, we don't discriminate. If there are men that want to join us, we talk about care all the time. And you also have families who are taking care of their older parents. And that could be, the sons or the daughters that are involved. So yeah, I mean, we tend to see women more speaking up because it has been something we've been dealing with for a very long time. But I've definitely worked along with and would encourage men that are dealing with it, either for care for a loved one or our home care worker themselves. We'll be given links of how to join us, reaching out. We don't discriminate. So But it is a good question. It is a good question of like, are there other ways that we can engage people? I'd have to think on that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good topic, being the mother of two sons and both of them being involved in taking care of children. Yes, the next generation is growing and doing stuff. Agnes, I see your hand up, but we are running out of time for this topic. So if there are things that you or other panelists want to add to the engagement of men, please put that in the chat. We'd love to see your comments, but we want to make sure we get the rest of this done. So at this point, I want to ask each campaign to quickly give people some ideas of how they can take action. So Dee Dee, you want to start?
Okay. So I think most important is make sure you're registered, make sure that everybody in your life is registered to vote and get out and vote. And like I said in my remarks, childcare is an issue that is funded by all levels of government, and it's regulated by all levels of government. And the solutions and to move us towards a child care system that works for all New Yorkers is going to require, or at least we will get there faster if we are if our elected leaders at all levels of government are prioritizing childcare. And it is very important when you speak to your elected officials to emphasize that a critical part of the equation is making sure that the workforce is well compensated and well supported, because there is no childcare without the workforce. And of course, access for all. Thank you.
Sure, and there is a link to the Empire State Campaign for Childcare's voter guide in the chat now. There is a major difference between candidates on these issues, so make sure to educate yourself, and there are resources. Lolly, you want to talk about the Caring Majority Rising action?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm hoping that Alana is still here, and we'll put the links in for you in the chat. You can join our ongoing actions to support home care. We use hashtag #CareNotCuts. And we have several different things, different types, different accessibility. So if you're listening and you are a wheelchair user and you're like, I can't go door knock, we are setting up things where we're in the community and doing table canvassing, as well as phone calls and a lot of different things. You can also sign our Care Voter Pledge, and that will allow us to follow up with you, help you get more involved. Maybe you want to get involved, but you're not sure how. Someone can reach out to you and help you. And then you can always check our website. We try and keep it updated. We actually have someone who is more knowledgeable, who's been really working our social media, but we also have our website, which is www.caringmajorityrising.org. And just, if nothing else, get out, educate yourself about what the different candidates believe in, and vote for care.
Terrific. I'm going to turn it back and thank you to all of our panelists today. I'm going to turn it back to Bev just to close us out and collect some final statements from everyone who's been involved.
Great. Thank you so much, Blue, for, bringing us together and helping us talk about this very complicated and very personal topic. I have so many notes here, but you all shared such compelling facts, your stories, it makes this real, and this is a real issue for so many New Yorkers, so many people across the world and across our country. So we can do something about it. This is a moment for us to ask our candidates, where do you stand? At www.powherthevote.org, there are questions, and one of them for you can ask a candidate is, on average, the annual income of childcare workers across the state is less than $35,000 a year with few benefits. What will you do to change this? And how will you assist families in meeting the high cost of home care? So let's go out there and do that. I have one more question for our panelists, if you don't mind coming on the screen. Just want to make sure people had that action to take. So thank you so much for sharing, everyone. We want you to just tell us, what will you PowHer the vote for? We're collecting these personal statements about why you want to PowHer the vote. So, Lolly, I'm just going to call on you as I see you on the screen here. Lolly, what are you going to PowHer the vote for?
Well, I'm going to power the vote for a caring and just long-term care system that ensures that everyone has the care they need in the way they want, in the place they choose, and that caregivers are recognized for the work that they do as essential and important. And that's going to require electing officials who understand the need for a caring economy and who will work with organizations to understand the needs of caregivers and recipients, and who will bring bills that will improve the lives of our older people, disabled people, home care workers, and family caregivers. That's why I'm going to power the
Thank you
vote.
so much for sharing that, Lolly. Dee Dee, what are you going to PowHer the vote for this year?
To support the childcare workforce, the workforce behind the workforce, our babies' first teachers, a workforce that is nearly all women, a majority women of color who cannot afford to stay in the field they love, which is causing a deepening of the state's child care capacity crisis. It's leaving families on wait lists, parents being forced to leave the workforce, young families leaving New York. So my hope is that we will all be childcare voters, a voter for the educators who help set up our children to thrive.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Shanita, what are you going to PowHer the vote for?
I want to power the vote for childcare, and I want to stand with families, mainly women, but also dads too, people of color who are navigating the childcare system, including the workforce who are owners, assistants, people who work in childcare. I want to power my vote for everyone involved, families who have to utilize the system for. I want to power the vote for a better childcare system that works for everyone, that pays the workers equitably, that cares about childcare, cares about families and workers as human beings, people who are just trying to make it and enjoy a good system that we are going to continue to strive for.
Thank you. Thanks, Shanita. Thank you so much, Manzi. And then we'll finish with Agnes. Manzi?
I am powering the vote so that families do not have to choose between physically and financially taking care of their families due to lack of childcare.
That says it. That says it all. Thank you, Manzi. And Agnes, what are you going to power the vote for?
I'm empowering the vote so that people who need care, no matter where we are, have better options and choices, because to die is not an option, but to live is the best one. It's the best human right we have, and we continue to fight for the rights and the strong voices by the power of our vote, whether we're disabled or not. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agnes, for that. I just want to remind everyone, that part of what we're trying to do with the Power of the Vote series is to bring attention also to Prop 1, to the Equal Rights Amendment. And the Equal Rights Amendment, really will solidify rights of many people. It's true, it's about abortion rights and gender, but it's also about disability, age, race, ethnicity. And so think about that as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Next week, we will have a panel on housing justice. And if you are listening to the news, housing is being talked about, and we need to talk about that here in New York. Please, everyone, remember to share the programs with your friends. Ask them, to think about how they talk to elected candidates as they come and knock on your door. Ask them a question, see what they say. When we ask these questions, our issue becomes more present, in the campaign season, and then we hopefully will have a louder voice as we move into the rest of the year and try to accomplish these kinds of changes that we all agree are really necessary. So thank you very much for being with us today. And we look forward to seeing you next week on Tuesday at noon to talk about housing